Welcome to the Quetzal y Andrade podcast, Resonance, where we talk about bass, effects, and live things. Well, no gig tonight, but I definitely have a great event to attend. It's my kids' winter performance at their elementary school. My oldest, 9-year-old Mateo, will be performing / singing, as well as my 5-year-old daughter, Analia. So super excited to be with the family and enjoy these memories to come. I did play a trio gig Tuesday night this week with Blake and Bryce. So it was a sax, drums, and myself on bass trio setup, and had a really good time. It's definitely something that I don't do on the regular or often enough. So reading jazz charts, jazz standards the whole night, and doing our own little rendition of The Little Drummer Boy was really cool. And that was ultimately my favorite piece, where I just went off about halfway through the piece towards the end, mixing up the chord changes, right? Just kind of improvising and changing up the feel, right? And the chord progressions underneath the solos and melody. And I love doing that. So that go figure that was my favorite piece of the night. Yes, it's the last week of work before winter break. As a teacher, it's nice to see the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing, where 3 weeks off is going to be really nice to spend time with the family, and also just relax, hopefully get some much needed rest, sleep, and cleaning. And to be honest, I'm really excited about catching up on some recording. It's been a while, and I did knock out a track last night, and so even though I was kind of skeptical about getting this 14th album released by New Year's Day, it may happen. I think I'm about 4 pieces in, or 3.5, I'm not sure, but I think I can get it done. I'm hoping that I can, right? This next album will be titled Reset, with the idea that it's been a whole year of recording, and starting in January will be like a whole nother cycle, and hopefully another momentum, right, to go ahead and create, record, and put this stuff out there. I don't know that I'll be able to pump out an album a month as I did this past year, but it would be nice to try to keep that same momentum if possible, right? I'm not going to try to overthink it, over stress about it, but it would be nice to be that consistent for the listeners, for the curious people about bass and or the sounds that I'm creating, right, on my instrumental / jazz type of music. Okay, so again, like I said, this week has had a whole lot of things going on. I've been watching and catching up with my good friend Ralph Edwards and his recent journey on The Voice, right? And it came down to him and another singer, Aiden, and ultimately Aiden was the victor, right? He won first place. He definitely did a great job all season long, but Ralph was the runner-up, right? He essentially got second place and was up there, right? So for him to have auditioned 11 times and finally gotten a 4-chair turn on his initial appearance, and then being the first runner-up at the end, right? That just says a lot about him. Super proud and happy for his success, and can't wait to gig with him and the Vibe Check Band this Saturday. We're doing a private event. We're playing a wedding, and it's just gonna be one of those things where just super excited to catch up with a face that I feel like I haven't seen in all too long, right? So I'm excited to see Ralph and the guys and just make music and do what we do, right? Just have a great time on stage. Sure, play some of the stuff as we've done the way we do, but I think every gig there's always an element of like, oh, let me try this, let me innovate, or just excuse me, take a risk and adding a different effect here or rhythm or root note, right? Being a bass player, it's nice to go ahead and throw a curveball to the band every once in a while and just play a different root note and see how they respond, right? Does it do anything for the music? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, right? And then you kind of have to reassess and think, okay, maybe that wasn't the best choice, or you know what, it was great, but it could be better, right? The delivery could be better, or how you go into it or out of it could be better. So again, always eager to create and innovate, even with being a cover band with Vibe Check. Let's see. NAMM is on the rise. I keep thinking about that. I'm looking at the S. Martin basses that are being pumped out with the vision of taking them to NAMM, right? The luthiers are definitely kind of previewing some of their pieces and what will be showcased at NAMM in 2026, and super excited to just not just see them, but hopefully try them all, right? If there's enough time, and if the masses aren't too thick, then hopefully there'll be enough time to go ahead and try out every instrument that seems attractive and or interesting, right? Sometimes we gravitate to certain instruments that are aesthetically appealing, or that we're intrinsically drawn to by certain specs. But I think it would be nice to kind of branch out and try some new things just for fun, and then hopefully make some new discoveries and develop some new appreciation for the diversity of instruments out there, right? The variety of instruments that are out there. I have always told people that there's a market for everyone, and I believe the same is true about instruments, right? I can honestly say that I think there's several basses out there that are hideous, that I think are just absolutely awful. The pickup configuration, the aesthetics, maybe the contour of the body alone, or whatever it is, right? I can have all these kind of prejudices towards basses or instruments. However, they exist for a reason. There are definitely people out there buying them. There's definitely somebody that thinks that they're great, right? And they're playing them. And I think it's always a nice thing to see videos on Instagram or wherever where there is a bass that I would naturally or usually cringe at looking at, right? Just straight up like, that's not something I would play, or I don't like the look of that bass, or whatever. Maybe it's just the color. But when somebody plays the instrument well, it's almost like, hey, respect. That instrument is key. That instrument at that moment in time is the best thing that person could be playing. It's their choice, right? And if it's making their music sound good, if their playing sounds great through that instrument, then it's definitely not wrong, and it's definitely a great choice then. What else? Went on that little transparency ride on my inability to just accept all instruments as beautiful, right? On an aesthetic level. I think there was a time where I really did not like single cut instruments, right? Single cut basses, and it just did not look good to me at all. And I feel like single cut instruments are all the more prevalent now than they were before, maybe 20 years ago. And guess what? Now I play a single cut instrument, a hollow body, for crying out loud, a short scale, when I thought, oh, those don't look as aesthetically pleasing, headless, are you kidding me? And so I think given the chance to experiment with new instruments and maybe not be so vain, right? I get it. Like you look at my pedal board, there's obviously a certain type of theme that can be seen, but trying to consider the music first, I think that will ultimately bring down some sort of walls, right? Some sort of some bias, right? That some instruments are just not as good, or deserving of our attention and time, just because they're naturally different or significantly different than something we would usually play or something that we grew up playing. I know that there's musicians and bass players that gravitate towards Fender basses, P basses, jazz basses, and that's all they'll ever play. And that's okay. If you can afford to limit yourself or confine yourself in that box only and it works for you, who's to say it's wrong, right? If you never need to play a 5-string or a 6-string and that works for you, why not? I would feel terrible if I had to play just the 4-string, for the rest of my life, right? And having played a 6, being more of a 6-string bass player. However, as mentioned before, like if it came down to it and I had to sell my 6-string basses and just limit myself to a 4-string bass for whatever extreme circumstance, I would like to think that I could be happy and be about the music, focus on the music, and make sure that 4-string instrument would channel and enhance all the music and emotions that need to be expressed through an instrument. It may sound overly dramatic, but what are we really made of at the end of the day? Is it the gear that ultimately drives us, or is it the music? Is it really something more than just vanity, right? And I think maybe that's something that we can consider more often or think about more often, to hopefully focus our practicing, our time, instead of scrolling and looking at, let me find the next coolest piece of gear, let me find the next best bass, and why I need this, why I would benefit from it, rather than utilizing the time to actually practice and improve our skills, right? And I'm guilty of this, right? There's times where I'm scrolling and I'm like, I should be practicing, I could be practicing, I'm not practicing, and it shows. So again, with that being said, I definitely intend on practicing more chords and reading of jazz charts and standards in 2026. It's something that has always been in like the back burner, back pocket kind of thing, and I think this is the year where I'm really going to say, hey, you know what? Let's be stronger at reading standards. Let's be stronger at improvising over jazz standard chord changes, and even on the comping level, because it's one thing to just play the bass and playing single notes at any given time throughout a chart, but when I play and there's no pianist or guitarist, my inclination is to go ahead and play some chords periodically, right, and comping between the actual bass line, and that can take some focus, right? That can take some skill, and rather than just kind of hacking it and winging it and I can only play these chords because I know it or it's efficient, I kind of want to put myself in a position where I can play any chord at any given time, anywhere, and any chart, and that's ultimately where I want to steer my reading and playing of charts. Improvising, sure, that'll be a focus, but I think specifically playing the charts, the bass lines, while trying to figure out the appropriate chords, voicings, and being able to integrate them in the charts. And again, not always necessarily in the same fashion, right? Because you don't want to sound like a broken record in a live situation. You want to be able to kind of change up the feel depending on what the drummer's doing, how the soloist is just going at it. If they're on a high energy level, then you want to reflect that with your comping and bass line too. And if things are a little bit more chill, then you're comping and overall feel and presentation on your instrument as a bass player, comping or not, needs to go ahead and, if not mimic, support that notion, right? Support that idea. Be appropriate, right? Be read the room, right? Make sure that you're fitting in with everything else that's going on musically on the stage. What else? I know that there's been some talk about strings with some friends. Bass strings are important, and sometimes we can feel like, the strings are doing us a disservice, or they make us play better or whatever. But I wanna not focus so much on gear this year, as much as I would love to try to find a set of 6 strings that maybe are a little bit less rigid and tight as my current strings. Right now I'm using the DR Dragon Skin steel strings, and I do like them. I really do. But I think somehow with the short scale, they may not seem as loose or as flexible because of the short scale situation. Maybe I have that notion wrong in my head, but I'd like to think that I just need to be stronger. I need to be better at controlling whatever strings are playing, learning to adapt, right? Learning to putting enough time to where, regardless of the strings you're playing, you're going to go ahead and maximize your playing, right? Tone, speed, feel, touch, the accuracy, between, like, from string to string, right? Being able to not just sound super crazy loud when you're playing the 5th string and then soft on the 3rd or 4th string, right? You want to go ahead and have a more even sound across all strings, regardless of the gauge, regardless of the type of music, and regardless of the type of strings, the actual brand or model. I really do like the DR Dragon Skins. I think they're going to be my go-tos for quite some time. I may experiment with a few different brands here and there. I know I tried the Ernie Balls on the S. Martin, and even though those were my go-to for like the last 5 years on my MTD when I had it, it just did not translate as well to the S. Martin. A little too rigid, a little too thick of a gauge, or so it seemed to me, and a little too rough as well for some reason on that instrument, maybe because of the way the tension is or the way it's strung up on a short scale. It definitely felt different than on a 35-inch scale bass on an MTD. That also could be because I used to boil my strings every other week for like 6 months before changing sets on those Ernie Ball strings. So who knows? Maybe it was just extreme wear and tear, where towards the end, I just got used to the feel of Ernie Ball strings that were worn in for a significant amount of time. If you're gigging 2 to 3 times a week, plus practicing in between, plus Sunday service, that can be a significant amount of playing week in, week out, and then to go ahead and boil them and recycle them, reuse them continuously for 6 months before buying a new set or replacing them. I would say that's a significant amount of time, as opposed to some that replace their strings every month or every 2 months. I don't have the money for that, or I don't know, it's just, I feel like there's got to be a better way, right, to maximize string life. And so mine was to boil the strings, right, clean them up and have them fresh sounding every couple weeks. But with the Dragon Skins, I feel like that's not necessary. Obviously, it has the coating. I've had them on my bass for a few months now, and they're definitely great. They're definitely working for me. I know there's the nickel set, but I don't know if I'll give those a shot. I've always been more of a steel string kind of guy, but maybe I'll give them a go and see if maybe the tension on those are just a little bit easier to play, softer, because that would be nice. The strings that came on the S. Martin, tension-wise, felt great. I want to say they were, what brand is it? Magma? I forget what. Magna? I don't know. Whatever. Some brand that I've never tried before, other than when it came with the bass, and they sounded great, but they definitely felt super rough to my, soft and delicate hands and fingers. So I definitely needed to switch out, because they were just tearing my skin up. Maybe I was just playing it too often right away. The new bass rush, and adrenaline that you get, new instrument, and all of a sudden you start putting heck of miles on it. And so maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what did it for me. It was just playing too many hours on the instrument continuously. But I honestly, objectively, I really do feel that they were just rougher than what I'm used to. I went to the Ernie balls and they were smoother, and now with the Dragon Skin, even smoother than the Ernie balls, and I'm here for it. So I'm not in a hurry to try anything new, but if you have any recommendations, definitely reach out and let me know. I'm always curious to see what other musicians are playing, and then in hearing people's tone and their videos or music, and then like, oh, these are the strings you use, I never would have thought, or oh yeah, my assumptions are correct, yeah, it sounds like they would be something of this brand or nature. So it's just nice to nerd out on even just the strings spec level. Let's see. Christmas is coming, so there's that. There's definitely a lot of chaos and family on the rise, trying to square away dates and times, and the gifts that have yet to be wrapped. But next week it's gonna arrive fast, but super excited to spend time with the family, and hopefully, because we're gonna be off of school for 3 weeks, myself as a teacher and my kids as well from their school, then definitely want to spend some time just vegging, right, just hanging out all together, but also spending some time in the music studio with them, right? I know we've had some weeks consecutively where we would be in the studio 2 or 3 times doing little family jams, and it's been a couple of weeks since we've done that. It's just been a little crazy and different momentum, right, of life, but definitely want to go ahead and bring some music back into my kids' life, right, as a focus, without making it a chore. Speaking of my kids and music, I played some music for my kids in the kitchen while making dinner one evening this past week. It was yesterday or the day before. I think it was the day before. And my son asked, "What song is this?" And I think part of it, he likes to see if I can remember what the name of a song is, because he knows I've written so many. It's almost like let's see if Dad messes up. Let's see if he can remember. Let's see if Papa remembers. So there's that, but also he was curious about some of the newer music, because I haven't converted it to MP3 format so that I can upload to his little MP3 player. So there was that interest and curiosity and inquiry on his behalf, or his part, a couple of days ago, was nice to hear. And it again, if my kids are my biggest fans of the music, or only fans of my original music, I'm definitely for it. It definitely makes it worthwhile, and the biggest praise I could ever receive. Another highlight, and I may have mentioned this before, but that same day my daughter's doing homework at the kitchen table, and she starts humming the melodies, right? She starts humming along. And I would say sometimes it's subconscious, like she's not like trying to draw attention or look, Dad, I can sing your stuff, or whatever, I'm trying to validate you. No. She was doing homework, and she's humming the melodies, or singing the melodies while doing her work, off in the distance, and not screaming my name or calling me out to say, look at, I'm doing it, or does it sound good, or anything like that. So I think that's an awesome way to, again, just validate what I'm doing. And I think if it encourages my kids to be more musical, right, be willing to try to sing, experiment with singing and hearing melodies, and being able to match pitch, right, I think it's definitely a cool way to maximize meaning and the life of the tunes that I'm writing, right? Not just for other musicians or bass players out there, but also for my own kids, that maybe they haven't figured out whether music's going to be a career for them, whether it's going to be a real passion for them on any given instrument. or I kind of lost my train of thought here because there was a car merging. But as you can see, I definitely want to have the music available for anyone to enjoy at any age, and for any purpose, right? It could be recreational, some sort of leisure time, or it would be so cool if at some point somebody covers my original piece, one of my original pieces, and makes a video or records it live and is able to tag me in it and be like, hey, we did your tune. That would be like such a cool thing. I think music's meant to be shared. Obviously the pieces that stand the test of time, they end up being covers that other bands play, right, for years and years. And so that would be a very cool thing. Another way to validate the music, another way to bring life and extend the meaning of music and my music specifically. I'm tapping out here. Thank you all for listening to my thoughts and ramblings. And I didn't get to any effects pedal topics or discussion here today, but definitely I have an idea for a possible small portable board, but definitely getting a little Christmas gift that may prompt such thing to be created, and I'll explain eventually why. But we'll see. I'm just excited about the future, and always looking at gear is just inevitable. Let's call it what it is, right? It's inevitable. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you at episode 10, right? This is episode 9. Oh my goodness, I didn't even say that at the beginning. Thank you for listening,